Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. So you've had this really amazing experience, and you want to tell your friends and family about it. How do you do it? How do you engage them so they'll understand what you're talking about? Because, some of them, oh, yeah, I've done this. There's the one-upmanship that happens, right? But then there's people who are like, oh, yeah, like I've done this before, so it's kind of like that. And you're like, no, you don't understand what I'm saying. And you're having to get into it deeper into the weeds, right? To try to get them to somehow experience something that you personally experienced. The words just don't, it's like looking at a photograph. Wow, that's a pretty photograph, but it's nothing like the experience of being there, right? Welcome. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your practice. Yes, we're going to talk some more about the Lankavatara Sutra, but I wanted to make a statement to get us started this morning on the nature of all Buddhist teachings. Because yes, it's like that. Shakyamuni experienced enlightenment, Buddhaness, and he's trying to get other people to not only understand what he experienced, but work toward it themselves, right? But now think of that experience where you're thinking, I remember trying to explain that to my friends and they just weren't getting it. And I just gave up after a while. Or maybe you had the opportunity to take them to the source of your experience and they had their own version of that experience. That's rare. But then consider that you're going to take that experience, that epiphany, that travel, that city you visited, that new thing you did that none of your friends have ever done. And now, after the challenge of trying to get them to understand, some of them will go, wow, yeah, I want to hear more. I want to learn more. I want to go to that place and experience that for myself. Yeah? Exceedingly rare, if you've ever had that experience in your life. But now consider that you're going to travel. And everywhere you go, the rumor of you precedes you, and people are going to come and question you or just want to hear from you what that experience was like. Now, these aren't friends and family. These are total strangers. Now, how do I express not only this experience, but I got to set it up. I got to give them some context. I got it, right? And then with social media, we know this much better than ever before. By simply stating that you have something to say, you're going to have a percentage of the audience going, yeah, but how do you explain this? Well, how is that any different from X and Y and Z? Who actually do you think you are? How special is this experience? Right? I mean, come on. We're in 2022. If you haven't understood what do we call it? Trolling is. It's just a basic behavior of human beings. Oh, you think you're better than me? Everything's an ego contest. Ego. Imagine Shakyamuni Buddha with this incredible awakening, going town to town and having everything from people going, "Oh, please tell me what you experienced. It sounds so amazing." I mean, and you have to look at them with compassion and knowing that a great deal of them are like, they're just sycophants. They just want to be part of the new thing. They don't really want to know. Some of them do. It's okay. But you've also got people throwing rocks at you from the side of the streets and behind trees. They wish you harm. I'm not talking insults. I'm talking harm, right? It's not about taking offense. It's about protecting your life. Just because you have something amazing to say. But it's amazing to you. How do you get other people to be as amazed? So all of that is to say, keep in mind that the sutras, the sermons, are given an amazing amount of compassion from Shakyamuni here. Really driven to be able to withstand all of this negativity and ignorance, to offer this supremely wonderful insight into living life fully. Think about that for a bit. And think about it in terms of, we're now reading 3,000-year-old sermons and conversations and teachings and analogies and algorithms of thought, right? About how to experience something genuine and absolutely different than the norm. We're still dealing with people who will say, right? And others who will say, me, make me part of the club. And those of us who are genuine and interested in, I want to accomplish that. Please guide me. Right? That's bodhisattvas. That's who we are. And what we have as study material isn't Shakyamuni. It's words written down from memorized sermons in different languages, transferred from culture to culture with their own languages into China and then, Tibet and Burma and Korea and Vietnam, Malaysia and Japan and then finally English with all of its words. Yeah, it's pretty amazing that we get the message eventually. And it's even more amazing to me that Shakyamuni, 3,000 years, I say it's not quite 3,000 years, but just round numbers make things easier, don't they? That he knew this was going to happen. And so the two greatest pieces of advice he gave you and I, future bodhisattvas from under the earth, future bodhisattvas. Study all of it. Because if you study all of it, sooner or later, the bull crap and the fancification and the improper wordings and the unclear verbiage, it'll fall away, because underneath it will this beautiful crystal clear image. It will bubble up. It will come through. And in that same statement, therefore, as you study and research all of these words, don't follow the words, the the person talking, the me, or any particular self-appointed high priest or president of. It's not a culture of personality. This is about you and your enlightenment. The only person you need follow is you, your Buddha-ness. That's where all this comes from. That's what all this is about. This is how it works. And that person, you, your Buddha-ness, will come of the insights penetrating beyond all the rhetoric, beyond all the words, beyond all the cults of wonderful people. Because the only enlightenment that's happening here, the only enlightenment to find here is yours, not theirs. You can't go to a vending machine and go, I'll have 2 of those Buddha bars. It's your mind that needs to experience this. Just like when you're trying to tell your friends about how it was to canoe down this rapid, you've never canoed before, you almost died, and you're trying to explain this to your friends who've never seen a river, never seen a rapids or a canoe, or not even know what a canoe is. And you hope that with your words, you're going to be able to get them to experience what you experienced. Good luck with that. So what do? You say, dude, let's pack up the van, the car, the mule, whatever. And I'll show you. Next weekend, we're going. You're going to kayak down that same river. Your experience won't be the same as mine. But it will be genuine, and you will have that experience. That's what we're doing. That's a bodhisattva. Well, not about kayaking, but about our enlightenment, Buddhahood, experiencing it, yes? Get settled here, sorry. So I just keep that in mind as we study here together, and as I try to share my insights as we go. That's what I'm doing. That's what we're doing. We're trying to understand this experience of Shakyamuni's and derive from it, right? Mine from it insights for our own practice. So we can experience that same kayaking trip. But yours won't be mine, or hers, or theirs. But the trip, the Buddha-ness, that will be genuine. Through your karmic, right? What are we talking about here? The alaya consciousness. All right. With all of that intro, let's get back into the Lankavatara. So we're in chapter 3 now, in case you missed the last video. At that time, again, Mahamati, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, said to the emancipated one, because he's not done asking questions, right? The 5 immediacies are preached by you. And what are these 5? Which, being committed by a son or daughter of a good family, causes them to fall into the Avicii hell. Whoa, left turn, where the hell did this come from? Remember my analogy, social media. People will come and assail you with questions or statements or whatever. What? But he is talking about the 5 immediacies that were preached by Shakyamuni some time ago. So how do you explain that? All right, it's like we're taking a big, huge step backwards here, but Shakyamuni, being compassionate, Then Mahamati, listen well and reflect, for I will tell you. But always prefacing, listen to what I'm saying, instead of just waiting for your turn to ask another question. Mahamati, the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, said, certainly. And he gave ear. I'll listen. So Shakyamuni says to him, what are the 5 immediacies? They are 1, the murdering of the mother, of the father, number 2, of the arhat, number 3, somebody dedicated to study, yes, the breaking up of the brotherhood. Obviously, this is all referenced to Buddhism. And 5th, causing the body of the Tathagata to bleed from malice. So that's a pretty immediate thing, isn't it? We can abstract that. I mean, obviously, the body of the Tathagata to bleed from malice is an allusion to Shakyamuni being, as I said earlier, had stones thrown at him and stuff, just wishing him harm. But it's interesting that the translation here, Suzuki chooses the word Tathagata, because Tathagata isn't Shakyamuni, is it? Tathagata is Buddha-ness. So how do you, with malice, force Buddha-ness to bleed? That's a far deeper problem, isn't it? That's wishing Buddhism and its goal of enlightenment harm. So much more profound than simply throwing a rock at some dude, right? So let's see, because in the format, as we've seen, first there's a statement of the actuals, and then there's an investigation into what each of those statements represents. And then there's a long explanation as to how to manage that, whatever that is, yeah? So he's made the statement, now he's going to take it apart. So now, what is meant by the mother of all beings? Oh, well, he didn't say mother of all beings, did he? But that's what he meant in the first one when he said the murdering of the mother. He's talking about the mother of all beings. So he's really talking about mother-ness, isn't he? Remember, this is all about the mind. It is desire which is procreative, going together with joy and anger and upholding all with motherliness. So motherness, yes? Ignorance, representing fatherhood, brings about one's rebirth in the 6 villages of the sense world. So he's identifying fatherness and the murder of the father as that human samsaric facility, which is the ground on which the motherness, the motherless, the motherliness, functions. The motherliness is the attitude, but the attitude is built on a perceived reality, right? A ground, samsara, what I own, what you own, what I protect. Father. Makes sense. When there takes place a complete destruction of both roots, fatherhood and motherhood, it is said that mother and father are murdered. Now we understand. So murder wasn't, bang, you're dead. Murder was the very destruction of the concepts of nurturing, tolerance, the mother-like aspect of human behavior, and the father-like aspect of human behavior that seeks to protect, own, delineate, So when there is a complete extermination of the subordinate group of passions, such as anger, etc., which are like an enemy, a venomous rat, the murdering of the arhat is said to take place. So when things go totally chthonic, wonderful word, by the way, if you've never used it. Chthonic, usually associated with the feminine, but chthonic as a chaos, but a chaos of all thought, rational thought, of behavior, of human understanding or misunderstanding, chthonic, just completely out of control, and thereby considered destructive. Yeah? So when everything becomes admired, when the motheringness and the fatherness is destroyed or assailed, then everything is in a complete animalistic chaos. Then there's no room for a mind to elevate, a mind to see through. So it is said that the arhat is murdered as well, because there's no chance for escape. Everyone's in Dante's hells. Yeah? What is meant by the breaking up of the brotherhood? When there is complete fundamental breaking up of the combination of the skandhas, whose characteristic mark is a state of mutual dependence upon dissimilarities, it is said that the brotherhood is split up. So humanity itself, the sense of community. How can a sense of community exist if everyone's chthonic, just chaos? There's no respect for motherliness, fatherness. Those are abstract, long thrown away concepts. Everyone's just running around like diseased rats looking to survive or kill other rats, right? You get enough rats in the same place, they attack each other. They eat each other. Rats are smart, but they have a low threshold for survival. Yeah? So obviously the idea of brotherhood, let alone excelling as an individual, right? Mahamadi, when the body of the 8 Vijnanas, which erroneously recognizes individuality and generality as being outside the mind, which is seen by the ignorant, in the form of an external world, is completely extirpated by means of faulty discriminations, that is, by means of the triple emancipation and non-outflows, and when thus the faulty mentality of the Vijnana Buddha is made to bleed, it is known as an immediacy deed. These, Mahamadi, are the 5 inner immediacies. Oh, now they're inner immediacies. And when they are experienced by a son or a daughter of a good family, there is an immediacy deed of realization as regards the Dharma. So that, another word salad for you, but let me digest it a little bit for you. Basically what he's saying is when these mental runaway perceptions, false perceptions, the dream state, right? That everyone's against me, life sucks, then you die, my mother doesn't love me, even though all she's displaying is love, my father's keeping me from my own destiny, I need to run around and just conquer everything, and male or female, you just run amok, loose. You don't respect anybody or anything, let alone yourself. When you don't respect yourself in that mire of delusions, then you've cut yourself off not only from the brotherhood that could help you, but your own enlightenment. And anything, if you've ever been a teenager, or had one, or have one now, anything that produces an ounce of compassion for you is seen as your greatest dragon attacking you. It's incredible, isn't it? The more you try to help somebody in that delusional state, the more they revile you. It's overwhelming. It's painful. This is part of the drama of being a parent, isn't it? And if you've never been a parent, look out for it. But that is a cause. That is an action. That chaotic teenager I just described, or any of us in the right circumstances, we become so wild, unattached to reality, that we cut off our own ability to awaken. We're stuck in the nightmare. And this is what he means by bleeding or harming the Tathagata. You're hurting your own Buddha-ness. You're cutting yourself off from it, literally. Attitude and intent. Attitude and intent. I know I always say it, but that's what we're talking about. Further, Mahamati, there are 5 external immediacies. Oh, okay. Even more. More meals at the table. Which I will point out to you in order that you and the other bodhisattvas in the future, you and me, pay attention, thereby be saved from ignorance. What are these 5? They are those immediacies which are described in the canonical texts, and those who commit these crimes can never experience any of these manifestations except those transformation Buddhas who are sustained by the power of the Tathagatas and have already attained a realization. All right, so just because you cut yourself off from your own enlightenment doesn't mean enlightenment doesn't exist. That's what he's saying. So now I'm going to caution you about 5 more behaviors, mental behaviors, that the only thing that will correct your path from these is to transform your thinking. Buddhas being, you could say, the earthly, the samsaric experience of Buddha-ness. That's Buddha. Tathagata is that experience independent of you. It's simply a reality of all phenomena. The Shravakas of transformation, Mahamati, who are sustained by the sustaining power either of the Bodhisattvas or Tathagatas, may see somebody else practicing deeds of wickedness, and they will repeatedly make great efforts to turn him away from his wickedness, or his wickedness, and the typos in this book, and faulty views, and to make him realize the non-reality of wickedness and faulty views by laying down his burden. This is the way I demonstrate facts of the transformation, the sustaining power, and the realization. Mahamati, there is, however, no realization for those who are sheer offenders of the immediacies, except when they come to the recognition of the truth that an external world is nothing but the mind itself, seeing that the body, property, and abiding place are discriminations, and that the notion of an ego and its belongings are to be kept away. Or when they are released from the fault of self-discrimination by encountering a good friend, a bodhisattva, at some time or other, or at any time, and being born in some other path of existence. So it is said. So now he's going to repeat all of this in verse. Basically, again, distilling from all of these words. What he's just described is bodhisattva behavior. This is a really key feature of full enlightenment. The one vehicle is that it's not something that you achieve solipsistically. That you can't lock yourself in a room and determine to achieve Buddha-ness. You may achieve it like we do with a Butsudan, mandala. We tap into our Buddha-ness, right? And that's very effective for ourselves. But yourself is a meaningless thing, discrimination, if not within the context of all the selves. This is key. If you really want to understand Bodhisattva, this is the key. I'm thinking of Horton Hears a Who. What a great Dr. Seuss. And that dandelion analogy where, you have to see that. All right. So the idea, and this is a philosopher's idea, this mentation of an individual is such a profound illusion. What do I mean by that? I mean that in order to define one's self, one's ego, as individual, they're really the same word, ego, individual. In order to do that, one is actively separating one's ego, self, from everything else. And let's talk about that for a minute, because this is a very important aspect of our practice. We think of ourselves as uniquely, see, all of these words are substitutes for ego. But Sylvain, I am unique. And what Buddha was saying is that you think yourself unique. I don't want to punish you for that. You're punishing you for that. By making yourself unique, you are essentially saying that you are you and nothing else is you. And you are nothing else. And yet we know through analysis, through reckoning, through consideration, that you and I, without words, without mentations, without mind, there's very little that separates us, if anything. Certainly on the surface, but as we dig more into things like genetics and molecules and atoms and energy, there is no difference. This is a major point of Buddhism. How, the Buddha would ask, can you see yourself as such an individual that attains Buddhahood as a separate thing than all other phenomena in the universe? You're all doing the same thing. You're all the same process. You are not so unique. Your perspective, your experience may seem to you unique, but that uniqueness is a fantastic construction of your mind. Since you were sticking everything in your mouth and pooping yourself with this total disregard, to this very moment, you have been constructing your ego, your uniqueness. So, if you want to experience complete, perfect, fulfilled, complete enlightenment, not just Stephen enlightenment, not just Julie enlightenment, but enlightenment writ large, there is no name. There is only a vast experience. How can you do that, cultivate that in an isolated way? It's a complete contradiction. This is the separation of Hinayana and Mahayana. Small vehicle, great vehicle. That the actual way of realizing that immensity of experience is by sharing it, by physically connecting with the other physical uniques, so that all of your uniqueness chanting together, working together toward this massive Buddha-ness. This is where you individually will experience the gargantuan nature of the life project and process. This is where I intercede and say, you are the universe and the universe is you, but only if you let it in. If you're just in your own little room trying to, I'm going to be enlightened, I'm going to be, you'll get a lot of insight. You'll learn a great deal. Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas and Arhats. But it will be a personal, it will be like your experience of going down the rapids, and now you're trying to explain it to everyone else. And they just look at you like, wow, okay, well. But isn't it a fact? And we have all kinds of words and names for it. You're my best friend. You're my best friend for life. I love you. These are all terms, samsarically, of attachment and expansion of self. If I can get one of my friends to go to that mountain place and go down those rapids with me and borrow my canoe, at the end of that experience, with her wide-eyed realization or his whatever, we will share in an experience that is individual to each of us, but we'll both know what it is to have that experience. And that's a shared and a growing. That experience now grows for ourselves, that our friend or friends have had their own experience of it, that we now can share and look at one another and go, remember the rapids? Yeah, dude. Okay. I don't need a bunch of words to describe it to you. You know. Now I know even greater. The satisfaction I feel from having gone through it actually compounds my experience of it. This is how we grow the bodhisattva experience, coursing through the world, others, our environs, affecting it as we go, and being, I want to say aggrandized, but our enlightening, growing from the interaction with others. That enlightenment is beyond even what we could experience by ourselves. This is the complete package. And so in Mahayana, this is where Shakyamuni is driving now. Okay, Hinayana, you got some ideas about what the nature of self is. Now let's take that and let's push it out. Let's grow that awareness into a self not being this 2 arms and 2 legs and a head bobbing along, a stomach. but an influence and a participant and an inculcator of a life. Now we're headed through a deeper, much more immense experience of life. Yeah. I hope that makes sense to you as I continue to try to navigate the Lankavatara. Again, we're only about halfway through, but the concepts are getting bigger. So there's every reason to keep on reading it and see where we end up. Namo Myo Renge Kyo. Thank you. Thank you for your practice, for your time, but mostly for your effort to be part of this Sangha, to grow with one another, to communicate this amazing experience of life beyond the boundaries of possession and competition and self and other, right? It's so much bigger. Take care of your health, be kind, and I'll see you in the next one. Okay? Bye for now.